You are listening to the So Now What podcast with Lana Manikowski, episode number 180.
So now what? These three words raced through my mind time and time again during my journey through fertility treatments. I tried desperately to have a child, but never was able. I yearned for a community to join that could understand my struggles. I couldn't find one, so I created one with the So Now What podcast. I love that you found us.
Hello, gorgeous. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. If you have been following along on YouTube, here is my final of 3 new sets of glasses. These actually are kind of a repeat. I've had a similar pair before. But if you've been watching every week for the last 3 weeks, let me know which one is your favorite. So before we dive in, I want to remind you about a free class that I am teaching this month, all about the things people say when you are childless. If you have ever felt like an outsider when someone tries to fix you by suggesting things that you might not have thought of, like adoption or more treatments, or telling you it's not too late, this is the class that you want to attend. We often think of ourselves as outsiders in those moments, and it's totally understandable. But what if you could finally learn how to feel like you belong in rooms where people have kids at home and you don't? What if you could feel empowered to tell people that you don't have kids instead of feeling marginalized? So I'm going to put a link to register in the show notes. So I'm pretty sure this is going to resonate with you. Make sure you're signed up, and I will love to see you there. Because if you have ever walked into a room and instantly thought, am I the only one here without kids? Or you felt that feeling in your body, like you were just stamped with the label that sets you apart from the rest. Sometimes it's because of something someone says, but other times it could be because of the thoughts that you've been carrying with you. That's exactly what I want to talk about today. This feeling of being othered when you're childless after infertility, and how sometimes we keep ourselves in that role without even realizing it. So I want to tell you why this topic matters to me and why it came up. So just this past weekend, I was invited to be a guest on the Full Stop podcast. If you haven't listened to the Full Stop, it's an amazing podcast. I want to say it started back in 2019. There are 3 hosts, Bernice, Sarah, and Michael, all 3 of which are childless, and they talk about some really powerful topics about being childless. And they asked me to come on and talk about othering. And if this is a new concept for you, listen in. We are going to get into it this week, and I'm going to give you some thoughts and perspectives that came up to me that I didn't maybe talk about on this episode with them, because I gave it more thought after we talked, and I was like, we haven't really talked about this on the So Now What podcast. So it is a very personal topic for me, because I know what it's like to live in that space. Because when my 7-year journey through IVF ended without the child I dreamed of, I didn't like who I was becoming. I was angry, often cynical, and quick to assume the worst about people who asked me about kids or gave me comments. I would catch myself thinking, is this who I am becoming? Is this going to be what life is like when you don't have kids? And I just thought to myself, I don't want to be this person. I don't want to be angry. I didn't want to feel as though like I just had to change who I was and my vibrancy in my life because I didn't have kids. And I knew that there had to be a different way. I just didn't know how to get it, because I didn't want to feel shut out. I didn't want to feel overlooked. I didn't want to be bitter. And I just wanted to feel like I belonged, not just in rooms that are full of people who knew my story, but in any room that I walked into. I had a corporate job. I would go to a lot of events that were filled with people that I didn't know or meet before. And I wanted to feel like I belonged. So that is why I am so passionate about this topic, because when you take that other label off, you stop letting it define how you show up. And what if othering isn't a bad label? What if it isn't a bad topic? What if othering looks like something different than you thought? Because you might think othering is when you're seen or you see yourself as separate because you don't fit a societal mold. So for us, that can look like being left out of conversations or events that revolve around kids. It could look like having your experiences in your life discounted or dismissed, or feeling like you have to justify why you don't have children. Othering, it absolutely happens because of how people treat us, but sometimes we do it to ourselves without even realizing it by making childless the main thing that we lead with, even in our own minds. But what if childless was just one part of your story and not your whole identity? Because let's be honest, you are so much more than childless. You are a friend, a partner, a spouse, a professional, a niece, a traveler, a daughter, maybe a creator and a leader. And when you lead with parts of yourself that don't relate to you being childless, you can create belonging for yourself. Okay, let me tell you what I mean. So imagine this. This is something that I know a lot of us deal with. Going to brunch with your friends with kids. And let's say it's your closest girlfriends. You've known them for years. They all now have kids, and the conversation is flowing about soccer schedules and back to school and latest teenage drama, college applications, you name it. It's so easy to shrink back and just sip on your coffee until the check comes. But here's what I want you to consider trying instead. Ahead of time, before you even get ready to go, think about what you want to lead with when somebody asks, like, so what's new with you? Pick something that reflects who you are and what you are beyond motherhood. Maybe you started painting again. Maybe you're training for a 5K. Maybe you just booked an awesome trip and you are so excited to talk about it. Or maybe you're redecorating a home, painting a room, whatever it is. When you lead with the tone that you want to talk about and the things that you want to talk about, people see you for who you are. And they start to see you for how you see yourself and what you talk about and what you bring to the conversation. And you can also shape the conversation by asking questions that have nothing to do with their parenting, like, what's something that new that you've tried lately? What's the latest show you've watched on Hulu? If you had a weekend to yourself, how would you spend it? So these kind of questions bring you into the conversation, and they remind everyone at the table that you have plenty to connect over, even if your day-to-day lives look different. And it allows you to lead the conversation instead of feeling attacked by it. One of my Thrive After Infertility clients used to tell me that she avoided gathering with her friends who had kids because she felt like she was always the odd one out. She would leave the day feeling like, why did I even show up? She would feel as though like there was this team that she was not part of, that like her crew was connected in ways that she would never feel connected to them again. And she was wondering, like, are they even really my friends anymore? So what she wanted to work on was deciding ahead of time how she wanted to show up in those events. She had a brunch coming up with her friends, and she decided to lead with excitement about a hiking trip that she was in the midst of planning. And that conversation sparked a whole 20-minute combo about travel in that area, restaurants to try out, things to do, bucket list adventures that other people had. And she told me later that she walked out of there feeling like her friends actually saw her and not as being the one without kids. And that is the difference when you stop allowing your childlessness to depict who you are and how you show up. I want you to think this week about how you show up and introduce yourself in conversations, even if they're with people you already know. Ask yourself, am I leading with what makes me different or with what makes me feel alive and connected? And then I want you to ask yourself, what would change if I let childless be one chapter in my story instead of the title of my book? So this is exactly the kind of work that I do in my Thrive After Infertility coaching program. It is a 12-week coaching experience that I created for women who are ready to feel like they're living a life they love, even if they didn't have the children they dreamed of. It's important to know that the work that I do is for women who are tired of feeling like they are on the outside and they're ready to step in and they want to feel as though they are connected and they are no longer feeling annoyed or cynical or jealous of the people around them because they start to show up and share about the things that are important about them, important to them, things that are noteworthy, things that they want to be seen for and recognized as. So this is, to me, like the conversations that we need to have about othering and revisit, are we doing it to ourselves? And I know it might be hard because you didn't know that there was another way to show up, but consider this as your invitation to show up with intent. Think ahead of time, just like if you were planning and going into a work meeting with your manager or with your team. Do you have an agenda for what you want to talk about? Do you need to show up differently than you have in the past with some of your friends? Maybe. Do you want to show up differently? That is up to you. But I want you to know it is absolutely possible for you to do this. If you want to work deeper into this, do not forget, check out my show notes to sign up for my free class, because this is the type of things that we are going to be talking about in this class. It will give you practical ways for you to handle those moments without shutting down and without feeling small. And I want that so badly for you because it is what made all the difference in how I was showing up in a life where I always felt like I was an other. So I hope you have a beautiful week. I love you. And remember that it's never too late to discover your meaning. I'll talk to you next week.
Hey, if your ears perked up when you heard about Thrive After Infertility, the 12-week coaching program I created for women who are ready to create the life they love without the children they dreamed of, let's talk. This program is where everything starts to shift. You don't have to figure it out alone. You don't have to stay stuck or in a life that just feels like it's happening to you instead of for you. Take a peek at the show notes for the link to book your free 45-minute Thrive call. And in that call, we'll create a plan for you about what's next, about how you can create a life you love and start to thrive after infertility.